Um, Ruchika and I will co-moderate this session. And Ruchika, we of course have a challenge. This is the last panel in a rather hectic, intense, and very interesting discussion we've had yesterday and today. So it'll be a challenge to keep everybody engaged. And if they're not engaged, it's because we, the co-moderators, have failed, okay? So we'll try our best. Okay. Well, thanks very much, everybody. This is a great opportunity to talk about the third pillar of the connectivity triangle. First being the digital, which we talked about this morning, then the last session on climate change and renewables, and the third pillar being transport. So what we think we'll do, considering we have such an eminent panel, I will introduce them as we go along, briefly, because you can read their details elsewhere. We decided to take, first of all, obviously, a Northeast perspective. And who better than having Mr. Moses Chalai to talk about it? From that Northeast perspective, we will move to the region as a whole. India, Nepal, Bangladesh, how that all fits in. And we'll have Jay talk about that. But that's still at a relatively macro level, and important as it is, ultimately what matters, particularly for transport, is what happens on the ground, i.e. roads and railways, etc. And we will have our good friend, Mr. Selva Kumar. He will talk about some of the specific projects and the challenges and all of that. But all of this is fine too, but ultimately somebody has to bring in the money. And therefore, we have the great pleasure of being able to get Dushyant to talk about it. So we'll go from the region, from the Northeast to the region, down to the projects, up to where it really matters, which is money. And then Ruchika will sort of, weave it together, particularly from the perspective from EU. What would EU sort of expect? They're very keen to come in here. What is it they need for that to happen? And we'll try to do it all within 45 minutes, rather interactive. And we'll leave 45 minutes for our audience, because that's where we'll get good feedback. And Ruchika will take it on from there, okay? So let's start without any further ado. Mr. Moses Chalai, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us. And we couldn't think of a better person than the Secretary of the Northeastern Council to talk to us about his perspective from the Northeastern point of view of the transport connectivity. And of course, anything else that you think you should include. So I pass it on to you.
Thank you, Rajatji. And my other co-panelist here, Dushyant. I see him in another avatar. Selva Kumar, Mr. the Director, and then Ruchika and Jay. And also, of course, Sabia is always there. So, and all the esteemed participants. Today we are looking at this transport connectivity for trade and sustainable, value chains, yeah. So, as I'm expected to, I can go on and on, but I'm expected to, give the broad, connectivity that that's happening in the region. So a lot is happening. In fact, a lot is very, very modest. Huge infrastructure development is taking place in the region. Whether it's connectivity, whether it's railways, whether it's roads, whether it's the aviation, the telecom, the banking, all other related infrastructure. So it's coming into and of course telecom, yeah, and in a big way. So right now, in the recent past, in 9-10 years, all the railway gauge has been converted into broad gauge. That's a big achievement. 15 projects, railway projects have been completed, costing about 36,000 crores. So it's there on the ground. And then right now, 100 tunnels of 146 kilometers of railways are under construction. And 25 tunnels of about 18 kilometers already operational. And like I never thought that we will see railways in Manipur. It's almost reaching Imphal, you know, and then it's almost reaching Aizawl. So these are the dramatic connectivity in terms of railways that is coming up, and also it is reached, Agartala and beyond to Sabram side. Roads are happening every way, you know. When the four-way lane started appearing, we said, wow, absolutely impressed. But now it's almost becoming a commonplace in many important routes of the region. And the two-way lanes are all over. In fact, in the last this many years, the exact figure I can get it, but it's more than 1 lakh plus crores are even happening right now. So huge investment is happening there. Aviation has come a long way, and about 17 airports are operational, and they're very actively operating. Many of us may be knowing that about 81 flights are operating out of Guwahati daily. And maybe even Shillong might have reached double digit in a week. In fact, Shillong also has come a long way, Umroi Airport. About 19 years back, or 18 years back, I joined a few of us passengers and some of us who came to see of some guests. We joined in chasing a cow from the runway because a cow had sneaked into the Shillong airstrip because the flight comes only thrice a week or so. So in those 2 days, don't know how this cow slipped in, and someone said, Gaya, beach. And I also joined in chasing that and then flight. So from there, we have come a long way. So huge developments is happening in these things. Now, let's bring about these things. You see the changes that is coming. I was amused and pleasantly surprised to hear that someone can reach from Guwahati to Tura in 3 hours. We used to take 5 to 6 hours in those good old days, 10 years back. Recently, we drove from Tawang to Shillong in 1 day. This was unthinkable even a few years back. Because Tawang means, Bomdila is a mandatory stopover. It's possible. But that day, had we started at 5:30, and had we not done some inspections of some of our works happening on the way, I went to see some of our projects, we could have reached here by 9 o'clock. And that's the kind of the connectivity that is happening. And that's one side. But now I think a lot of people have spoken, and Sabia and we all have been into that. And in April, we had a conference in middle of April in Agartala, that how that now they look east and act east has to be by south. So we will go east still, but through south. In foreseeable future, that's how I see. Because the surface is going to have a lot of challenges. Physical challenges. I don't know, sorry, I should have kept that up. Physical challenges, and also the political instability and quite a few other things are there. So we need to get out from northeast and jump into Bay of Bengal through south. Till we have a good sea exit route, I think we all have this. Limitations will be always there. Northeast, we cannot right now compete with the conventional industry because of this transportation bottlenecks. Unfortunately, this I have to repeat, and every time I repeat, I feel bad. 1947, when we were suddenly cut off because of the partition, the shock happened in 75 years back, and the shock is felt even this day, every single day in the Northeast. And this is the disadvantage that we are. However, everything is not lost. Things are really looking up, and I'm quite upbeat. And This is some of the things that we can, do, and well, so the transportation sector has really coming up. Much more needs to be done. Yes, we can always agree that, but I want to say that yes, much is happening. A lot needs to be done, but I think we are coming to the threshold from where yes, we have enough, at least basic connectivity from where we can do now business. That's where I would like to say it. And maybe as we move on, of course, I'll be very happy if I'm given about 2-3 minutes to talk one of my favorite topic, that is the 4.0 industry and why it should come to notice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chalai. Your point about this region still feeling the shocks of partition 75 years back is actually very gripping, and that's the reality. But that's what we're getting there, and this point came up in all the discussions we have had so far. Moving to the region, one of the paradoxes that I've observed in all my work on regional integration and connection all over South Asia is that regional projects are generally win-win propositions for both countries or all countries. The challenge is that there is what I call asymmetry of benefits and costs. Each country doesn't gain equally, and the costs are not equally borne. And this is why regional cooperation projects sometimes, from an individual country's point of view, gets into a situation, but what's in it for the other country? And my advice always has been, why don't you let them worry about themselves and you worry about what's in it for you? And I thought it will be extremely interesting and exciting to hear you, Jay. Given your background, he has a very exciting set of portfolios, chairman of the Asian Institute of Diplomacy on International Affairs. He has worked in international development. He has worked in democracy, propagation practitioner, political analyst, broadcaster, and university lecturer. So he combines academics and public sphere very eloquently. So Jay, if you could kindly talk to us about the regional connectivity, India, Nepal, India, Bangladesh, etc., from your perspective, and the challenge of this costs and benefits, unequal sharing. Jay.
Yeah. Thank you, Rajat. My fellow panelists and everybody present over here today. I think I'm the only one who comes from Nepal. In this entire hall, I didn't find the second person. And also when I interacted with a few natives over here and I explored if they have been to Nepal, there were more no's than yes. But if I had been to Delhi or Mumbai or in some other big cities, if I meet 10 people, maybe 4 or 5 say that yes, they have been to Nepal. Whereas this is so close to Nepal. We just go to that chicken neck, the Siliguri corridor, and there is the Nepalese border. And Nepal practically shares its border with 4 different states in India: Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal, and then Sikkim. So I think a couple of words from Nepal or about Nepal or on Nepal may be a bit relevant. Nepal and India shares, I think, this most unique border, and I can go to an extent of saying that perhaps in the world. It's an entirely open border to an extent of about 1,750 kilometers. No Indian or no Nepalese need to have any document if they cross the border overland. But of course, when you take a flight, then you may have to take, let's say, your passport or your Aadhaar card with you. So it's entirely a free border. And since it's a free border, you can practically cross the border almost from any point, because there are the fields running between the borders. I come from a boarding town of Janakpur, and Janakpur is the place where Ram and Sita got married. And there are sections of borders where you can find the pillars over there in the middle, but really don't knowing which part of the territory belongs to Nepal and which to India. So having a border like that and then talking about the trade, transit and connectivity, I think creates some challenges. But having said that, overland, you can go through, let's say, at least 7 proper checking points. Then there are 14 or 15 choti bansar, as they say it, and then you cross the field and you come in India. One interesting aspect that I may like to recall is when Mr. Modi became the Prime Minister, within his 3 months in office, he visited Nepal. Nepal was his second destination. The first one was Bhutan. And he addressed the parliament over there, and he gave a formula. He said that Nepal and India can progress together if there is a hit. And by hit, he meant high wage, I wage, that means information technology, and then trans wage. Perhaps he was talking about the transmission infrastructure. And just yesterday, as there was the Nepalese Prime Minister coming to Delhi, and Mr. Modi and Nepalese Prime Minister Mr. Prachanda, they had a joint press statement, and also they addressed media over there. And one more time, Mr. Modi said that 9 years back in Nepal's parliament, I gave you a formula of hit. And this time, I repeat this formula hit, but I would like to call it super hit. As Mr. Modi loves to play with the words and he loves the acronyms, it suited him. But just yesterday when I heard Mr. Datta Sabya, he also said that this event is on the 3 pillars, energy, transportation, and then digital. So the very thing was said by your Prime Minister 9 years back in Nepalese Parliament, and you said it yesterday as well. So if that was the hit, and yesterday was a super hit for him, then what I should call your pillars, maybe a blockbuster. But from there, I don't know if it is just a coincidence or Sabya did some trick. Yesterday, Nepal and India inked 7 agreements, and barring one, the 6 were based on this hit formula. So there are the agreements that have taken place yesterday, and that covers the area of, let's say, a couple of ICPs. Then there is a talk about India buying electricity from Nepal to a tune of about 10,000 megawatt in next about 10 years, if Nepal can produce, and if Nepal and India have a proper arrangement to purchase that power. But one remarkable thing that I must talk about in this very August gathering is that arguably Nepal and India are the only 2 countries that have signed an agreement, and it took place yesterday, whereby a Nepalese coming to India or a Nepalese going to India can make their payments by, what do you call it, sharing the barcode? Yeah. And I asked a couple of IT experts over here in this hall, and they said that they don't remember if any 2 countries have such an arrangement. So I would like to say that when it comes to digital connectivity, Nepal and India have taken a step forward. And now, a Nepalese, when they come to India, don't need to worry. They can just use their phone and make a payment. So I think there are several such developments that are taking place between Nepal and India. And if I bring the regional twist, then recently there is the addition of Bangladesh. As you know, Bangladesh has this compelling obligation to get rid of fossil fuel. And they have a plan in place that by 2050, they would like to get rid of at least 40% of their fossil fuel. And they would like to replace it with clean energy or green energy. And they are eyeing Nepal for that. Nepal has a capacity of producing about 200,000 megawatt of hydropower electricity. Earlier, it used to be about 83,000 megawatt as it used to be put in the academic papers. But with the advent of new technologies, and now the same river can have, let's say, 3 or 4 hydropower generation dams. So that capacity has now gone up to about 200,000 megawatt. And Bangladesh has this plan to buy electricity from Nepal. They're already in some kind of understanding to develop a hydropower project in Nepal of about 680 megawatt, that is called Sunkosi Power Project. But the most challenging thing is how they would like to evacuate that power from Nepal to Bangladesh. Because there is this chicken neck or narrow stripe of about 22 kilometers between Nepal and Bangladesh. So they are looking for, and also the Nepalese are looking for, a tri-party agreement so that Nepal, Bangladesh, and India can sit together, can form an arrangement, and then Nepal would be able to sell electricity to Bangladesh through Indian territory and infrastructures. But yesterday there was an agreement, and India has agreed to let Nepal and Bangladesh trade to a tune of about 50 megawatt of electricity. And they want to do it at an experimental basis. And an excuse that India is having on that is that their infrastructure is running to full capacity. They don't have any more space to carry the Nepalese power to Bangladesh, but hope they try to build some more infrastructure in the future. So I would like to stop over there at that point, and then I can add value maybe later on.
Thanks very much, Jay. Your last point is extremely encouraging, and I wouldn't worry too much about it's only 50 megawatts. It's the beginning. And once that's done, 50 can be expanded to 100, 200 at any point. But and as you know, this has been long in the making. So these are all very encouraging. And though you didn't touch much on Bangladesh, but I'm very glad you brought in Nepal, because Bangladesh connectivity issues we've discussed at quite a bit. So this supplements very well our discussions. As I said, from the Northeast to the macro, let's now get to the projects themselves. And very much along the lines of what Mr. Chalai mentioned, the undivided peninsula really depended tremendously on inter-riverine connectivity. And unfortunately, of course, partition snapped all of those. And fortunately, we're all coming back again to using the waterways to restore that connectivity and therefore opening up the potential. And I'm delighted that we have Mr. Selva Kumar, who is he's a director at the Inland Water Resource Authority. And he has a very significant experience having worked on the, was it the Haldia port, the multimodal that you started with? No, I know, but you started with having worked in Haldia many years back. And then, of course, the more important and more recent and in a way more dramatic, the Kaladan port. And Mr. Selva Kumar mentioned that he was actually with the project on day one back in 2008. And here we are. He was a witness to the opening of it last month or so. So, Mr. Selva Kumar, if you would kindly tell us about the, not the details, but the lessons learned in implementing such projects. Challenges, opportunities, success lessons, etc. So we depend on you to pull us back to ground. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, session moderator and co-panelist, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to everybody. Here in this session, I like to express my point and all in three ways. First of all, I like to say about the connectivity, because this session is about the connectivity. I like to tell about the connectivity, that is mostly waterway connectivity. What are all the connectivities existing in state or with other countries, what are all going on there, that I will, first of all, I will tell. And for connectivity, for this promoting and the publicity, what are all the effects we have done, what are the waterway conclaves, seminars we are conducting for making public awareness programs, what are all we have done, that I will tell in the next this thing. And lastly, that output of this session, that is the new project connectivity, what are all be there, how we can, the new proposal can come up, those things I will cover in that one. It's as a first, that connectivity, what are all existing, I'll first from basic onward, from the background, I'll touch background. 1986, this IIA was declared as by an act of parliament. IIA was set up in 1986. From 1986 to 2014, there were only 5 national waterways there. When this new government, under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Modi sir, 106 new national waterways were identified, and it was declared in 2016. As our Mr. Jayaprakash was expressing that one, our Modi ji was giving more importance about this Nepal and all. He has given more importance for waterway development also. His first view is that vision of the Honorable Prime Minister is that this waterway is the alternate mode of transportation for passenger and cargo movement. That was the priority what he was giving. Based on this only, 106 new national waterways were declared in 2016. Total now we are having 111 national waterways spread across India. In this 111 waterways, we have done, IWA had done feasibility study. We have done all feasibility studies, and all feasibility studies report are available in website also. Anybody can go through from our website and they can download that report also. In that 111 national waterways, our department, IWA, we have categorized these waterways in 3 categories. Category A, B, C. Category A is for mainly for cargo movement, because cargo is the main mode of transportation for these waterways. This passenger and all will be secondary only, because anybody want to travel by around 100 kilometer, road will be the giving first preference, because it is very easy, 1.5 hour you can reach, whereas waterway it will take 8 to 10 hours. By if you see cargo movement, there if you move around some 600 ton cargo, we can reduce around 50 truck load from road. That can be reduced with this, with economic and other benefits like pollution, environmental pollution, all these things can be avoided. Lot of benefits are there when we move cargo through waterway. That is why government is giving more importance for waterway movement. This cargo, when we move through waterway, it will be cheap also. For that purpose only, we are categorizing this waterway, category A. Around 23 waterway is category A, which is identified, and it will be developed for cargo movement. Next is category B, will be coming around 25 waterways, which will be having a less cargo, around 25 to 50 ton cargo will be moved, and with passenger movement will be taking place. That will be category B. Another around 58 waterways will be category C. This category A, B, C we have identified, and we are making the priority wise, we are developing that one. But when we make this priority, and if you see the category C and all, it will take long time to come for that project. That is why our government of India, our IW also, we are taking a stand that one. We have requested all state government also to go through the DPR. Whatever waterway coming in their area, in their state, they can come up with a proposal for developing that one, which will be 100% financial support will be given by Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways. That guidelines, everything is available in IWA website also, in Ministry website also it is there. All state can come. If you see this 111 national waterways, 20 national waterways in Northeast state, 12 in Assam, 5 national waterways in Mizoram, Meghalaya, and Mizoram, Tripura, and Arunachal Pradesh having 1 each. See, if you see the states and all, Tripura, Mizoram, and Manipur and all, they have come up with a proposal for developing their waterway with their project report and all, which was approved by Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways, and they are developing also. Now this, from this Meghalaya, we have not got any proposal for development where 5 national waterway is there. That I will come later on also about that one. And this is the first importance how the government is giving for developing this in national waterways. This next step is that one, that connectivity, existing connectivity. See, national waterway 1, river Ganga is a national waterway 1, and Brahmaputra is a national waterway number 2. This Ganga is 1,620 kilometer length of waterway, whereas Brahmaputra is 891 kilometer. These 2 waterways having a connectivity through Indo-Bangladesh protocol. We are having a protocol route connecting this Indo-Bangladesh protocol route by National Waterway 1 and National Waterway 2. Now recently you might have seen that one, longest river cruise, MV Ganga Vilas, which was flagged off by our Honorable Prime Minister at Varanasi, reached Dibrugarh safely by around 50 days travel. They have reached Dibrugarh, which was received by our Honorable Union Minister for Port, Shipping and Waterways, Sri Sarvananda Sonowal on 28th February, which was flagged off in Varanasi on 13th January this year only. That is a great achievement, which shows also, because it has made wide publicity, all the things. People are very much aware that one passenger or cargo can be moved from Varanasi to Dibrugarh. This waterway is already active, and this has given a promotion, which has given a public awareness. This waterway can be used for passenger and cargo movement. This is the one route connectivity. Another one connectivity what we are having to the northeast region is through Myanmar. We are having, there is one project, that is the MEA project only, Ministry of External Affairs project, where they have requested this Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways for assisting, for developing this waterway. Kaladan River is the river which starts from that sea mouth seaway and reaches up to Palava, that is 160 kilometer in Kaladan River, that is a waterway portion. And from there, Palava to Zorinpui, that is the border of Indo-Myanmar border, that is Zorinpui, that connects that Mizoram, that 110-kilometer road component. There are two components are there. Whereas we have already completed the development of waterway component, and 9th May, our Honorable Union Minister Sarvananda Sonowal Sahab has inaugurated the port, Situate port also. It became functional, and one ship also, first trial run ship from Calcutta port test. It has reached this city also safely within 2 days. This is the second connectivity what we are having through this other country to northeast region. Third, this with Bhutan also we are having a lot of requirement also. They want to move stone chips from Bhutan through our national waterway number 2 Brahmaputra to Bangladesh. This lot of stone chips movement is already taking place because there is a need of stone chips for Bangladesh, and which can be brought from Bhutan through this national waterway to from Dhubri, otherwise from Jogopa. We are having a permanent terminal at Pandu and Dhubri. Now one terminal under construction at Jogopa. Jogopa is still near to this Bhutan border. That will be developed by this December end. We are trying to complete the project. Our Minister Sonal Saab also this month on 4th May, he had a surprise visit also, because that much importance in the top level, high level, they are taking interest to see that this waterway projects have been completed, and that too before time. By compressing the time, yes, we have already made all arrangement, everything to mobilize more manpower as well as machinery, and he has told also even to do the work for 3 shifts and try to complete by this December end. That much we are giving priority for developing this one. Once the Jogopa is developed, means this cargo from Bhutan also can come. These are all the 3 ongoing projects with other countries, I'm telling, going on. Other than also, there are a lot of projects is there. After this, our leadership and guidance of our Honorable Minister, Sonowal Sahab, we are started a construction of ship repair facility at Pandu only, which was a very dream for so many years. There was no ship repair facility. Whenever any vessel comes for movement, cargo movement and all, they have fear that if anything happens to the vessel or some repair and all, they have to travel to Calcutta for getting it repaired. Again, it will come back sail. It will take more than 1.5 months, and a lot of expenditure will happen. For that, a ship repair facility was a dream for this northeast region. That already has been approved by this DIB, the Delegated Investment Board, which was with our Honorable Minister, this thing. We have completed that also. Now one more road project. Like that, many project is coming up, and we are making this waterway conclave. We have made a Dibrugarh also 2 days waterway conclave, and so many other seminars, and also we are making it, and we are giving the publicity and for awareness to all other stakeholders also, so that they can come and use this waterway. These are all we are making. Then for the new project that I will come in the next this thing. Thank you, sir.
My God, that's very impressive, and reflects the importance of waterways. And of course, I'm looking forward very much to this cruise on the Ganga sometime. One thing that I found in my work at the Asian Development Bank, and actually confirmed very much in the discussions yesterday with Chalai, EU essentially was saying, we're very interested in this region. There is this global gateway proposal and commitment, very strong commitment. But the bottom line is, where are the projects? It has to be done in a way which is bankable, which is sustainable, meets all the guidelines and the requirements. And what I heard the Chief Minister and the other side saying is, where is the money? So I think the challenge on any infrastructure development is to bring these two together. There is enough money in the ecosystem, primarily the private sector, who are looking for good projects to invest. There are enough projects, and we heard a very impressive list that Selva just outlined. And that is where I bring in good friend Dushyant Thakoor. He is the Deputy Executive Director of the World Association of Investment Promotion. It's a Geneva-based NGO, 110 member countries, many multilaterals involved. But very impressively, he is one of the masterminds behind Invest India in setting it up and then taking it where it did. So he is the right man with the background and the perspective and the vision. So Dushyant, tell us about what investors look for when they're looking for projects such as what we're talking about here.
Thank
Over
you
to
so much, sir. I'd like to make 6 specific points here. The first is, you've got DFIs here from Europe who are already directly talking to you, and they've been loud enough in expressing that there is an interest from their end. So that's sort of taken, that if you put some good things in front of them, they would be ready to consider it. Number 2, there is one more segment which I did want to touch upon. It's not an easy segment, but this segment is what really represents, big money. And something once unlocked can actually help countries meet their SDG goals and, talk about all of these sectors that we've talked about. And that's the space of institutional investments or financial investments. Institutional investors manage $120 trillion. They have assets under management of $120 trillion. Now, what are we really talking about? We are talking about limited partners, organizations such as LIC. We all know LIC, Temasek, AIDIA, CPPIB. From Europe, there are a number of them. Swedish APs are there, quite a few of them. APG, Norges Bank, just as examples. But these are the limited partners, the guys with the deep pockets. The second is the general partners who manage the money for limited partners. Again, NIF, everybody knows about it. KKR, Brookfield, from Europe, again, some of them would be like 3i, Antem, Arcus, and there's a number of them. So that was the first point. Now, within this, infrastructure is the space where their interest has been rising crazily. That's what we've observed it was not really there earlier, but in these last 4-5 years, we've seen them now move a lot into the infrastructure space to the extent 3 to 7% of these really big pockets of money are moving towards infrastructure. So there is an appetite there. The second point is what is required. Where do they put in? So their money would go into either corporates, companies, which are listed, or it will go into projects. And when we are talking about transport infrastructure here, and there's a list which also Ruchika had shared. So what were the sort of areas which were mentioned there? They were mentioned like tunnels, metros, waterways, bus modernization projects. But also interestingly, I've been associated with the Northeast region, and we interestingly saw the Northeast come together, and Moses sir has played a very important role. Dubai Expo is one place where all of them came in together. They had prepared a booklet on investable projects. Now, end August, that's the tentative date. There's a big Northeast summit which is going to take place, and again, there's a deep booklet on investable projects. More than 100 projects are listed there. I have some names, but I won't, because of paucity of time, like to go in there. Now, that's the second point, that there is very clearly, and if you have seen session by session today, the clear message which was coming out, all discussions were leading to projects taking place. The third point here is I did want to reflect on one area which I've been very passionate about, and Moses sir will also sort of, second me in that. That is the space of industrial infrastructure. I was involved, sir, when Make in India was being conceptualized, and very clearly Northeast is where we need more stuff to happen, Northeast and, this entire region. So clearly industrial infrastructure, there are 125 industrial parks, SEZs, special economic zones and all of that. Almost half of them are in Assam, and the rest of them are in the remaining state. But there's a clear need of investments going in here. And this is a message to the team EU here, that this could be one potential area, because they'll need a specific ticket size. You talk to a particular state, they can bring together all of their industrial parks and give it to you as a specific item in which you can invest. ADB has been doing a lot of investments also in Tripura, just as an example. The second area I again wanted to mention again is border centers. Since we're talking about, the whole connectivity thing, Doki, Sabroom and More were 3 of the areas identified in the ADB report. And it's a brilliant document, more than 1,000 pages, a lot of knowledge out there. So that was the third point, which is essentially more about projects and then projects as an example in these areas. The fourth point is why would they invest? What is it that they're going to look at? You give them a project, it's not that they're just going to come out there. This is money, money which they want to very carefully put in. So the projects need to be bankable. And, especially when we're talking about to GPs, the general partners, for them being bankable is important. That is the sort of experience which I wanted to tell Team EU, that please, if these projects are going to land up in your lap, and when you're going to evaluate, it's great if you guys want to do a little bit of capacity building now, when these projects are being conceptualized. So that's again a clear area, and I've seen a lot of demand, and we as VIPA will be very happy to come in and partner, with Team EU for this initiative. So that's the fourth point. Fifth point, very quickly, and sorry if I'm taking a little more time here, but digitization and technology, and I know we had a specific panel on that, but that can play a very, very big and important role. Three very quick examples here. One, the India, and this is from my previous role as the Senior Vice President at Invest India, where we had set up the India Investment Grid, the National Infrastructure Pipeline, and we're talking about 9,000 projects being there. That's a menu of projects. So that's one thing. Obviously, it requires more going in, sitting, talking, discussing these projects. That's one space, but that's an online platform. And there's been good amount of interest. Second example, Gujarat has just done its Gati Shakti, portal, and that's where if you're making for example, a road from a point A to point B, it'll clearly tell you what all clearances, licenses are required. I was responsible for the national single window system, but that was more manufacturing. Infrastructure, Gujarat's an example which I wanted to give. And third is the project monitoring group. You're talking about 500 crore projects which are facing any bottlenecks. PMG, the project monitoring group, runs on a beautiful tech platform. Any issue which is coming up, the specific DC and the guys underneath. So it is going to a sub-district level in those cases. Minus of technology, it is not going to really happen. So those were three examples. My final point, who is going to do this? Who's going to get the money for you? Who's going to do the facilitation? That's the space of investment promotion agencies. I've spent the last almost 4 or 5 years working on Indian state investment promotion agencies. Now, we're talking about what? Organizations such as Invest India in India, BIDA, Board of Investment Nepal, and a lot of these agencies are very powerful. They work very closely with the prime ministers, the president's offices in respective countries. And then we have the subnationals, which work very closely with the chief ministers. If it's UP, then Invest UP would be backed up by, CM Yogi being there. So again, these are the guys, so they're the ones who are going to go out there. They may not directly prepare projects, but they'll be, those real guys who will help in preparation of the projects. And let's train those teams along with the different departments within states. And I can tell you, we are really having right solutions. Going beyond transport infrastructure, meeting up with the SDG challenges is going to become critical as time goes by and as we are nearing 2030. Institutional investors have the money. Let's go out there and get this money. I'll just stop here.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Dushyant. And you are the right person for us to tap into to get that money. You have to tell us the homework we'll have to do. That was very, very encouraging and very helpful. Mr. Chalai, you had mentioned that you want to spend a bit of time talking about something which is also very important for you, the digital connectivity. And though we had a session on it, I think we'll all benefit very much from getting your thoughts and views on that. Please.
Well, this the digital space on the possibilities is something that has really gripped me, and any talk that it tends to finally drop in there from my side. So anyway, see, we all know what the digital thing. I think we should not even get into that. But when the internet came and began to appear, in a much more visible way, 20, 25 years back, 20 years back, one of the things that used to be there is that, how is this internet? How good it is? So one of the frequent answer that used to come and people used to react, and people have even spoken here and there, is that internet does not discriminate. That's one of the biggest thing. Because from the third and second world countries, sometimes you feel that, if they go elsewhere, it may not be exactly, the kind of response that they get. So the internet which does not discriminate today is absolutely a level playing, force. Sorry. So now coming to the things that the first wave of industrial revolution, second, third, and then we are in the fourth. So therefore we are at 4.0 industry. I would really urge the the EU and the gateway which we have come together to seriously consider to bring something that they can onboard for the Northeast under 4.0 industry, because this will not entail physical barriers and physical challenges that we have with every other industry. And as we said that the GPT chat, incidentally, I'm still resisting to look at it. Maybe in the next 1 week I'll do that. Just reading about it. But I think GPT is what you call, the acronym has been kind of, I won't use the word stolen, but they said generative pre-trained transformer. But actually, the real GPT is the general purpose technology. So the human history has these waves. I mean, we have not had many GPTs in human history. But I would say discovery of wheel was one of the GPT. Because there was a technology that could be used across. Electricity is one of the GPT. Everyone thought it was light, but then it went just beyond light, and it begins to cool and hot and heat and move and everything else, including education, health. I mean, talk about it. I mean, all of us know. And then another GPT that came and that hit the world was the steam engine. The steam engine, everyone thought, okay, can for some karkhana, this, that, but suddenly this use, that use, across, and finally they said, it's good for Navy also. And they came to India. And that's how the British arrived. Otherwise, I think they would have been happily there, we would have been happily here. So now the latest, the GPT that is coming and going to hit and storm the world is this 4.0 industry. The Internet of Things. And artificial intelligence, very scary actually. I'm genuinely scared about this. Machine learning, 3D printing, and and the 5G and 5G applications. So these are here, and we cannot run away. That is the reality. That is the truth. And can Northeast take advantage of this thing? I would urge that Dushyant, if some of the investors can seriously think to tap this 4.0 industries, which is the new GPT, which will sweep our world in the next 10 years and will change our world like we have never seen. It's only God knows where we are going now. But this is one where, whether you're in Shillong or Haflong or Tamenglong or Namphaalong, all these are real names, okay? They do exist, no? The young people can be in these locations, and they can be as competitive and as creative and as productive anywhere else in this world, And I think the 5G we're talking about, it's, I think, a matter of them, that things like Starlinks are going to just, change disrupt, everything that we know again. So with this, the point that I would like to drive is our youths are very creative. If it really interests, they can really dedicate it. And they are also very good. The attrition is very low with our people because they don't want to go out of Northeast. So you can get a very, very dedicated group of creative young people, and also very, very easily adapting to this technology. And in fact, this can become a kind of a rail that hub for the digital world to do, and then now get into design of everything else. Maybe our youths can design for all the aircrafts of this world, the industry.
Yeah, you know, it's a real pity that your busy schedule didn't permit you, Mr. Shalia, to come this morning, because you would have been a very, very significant value added to that. And just for the interest of time, I'll just sort of, wrap up this particular
Clark,
point with one.
fun
I'll just come to it in a
comment
moment. Yeah, sure. I'll come to a moment. No. It was very useful, and as I said, I wish, and I'm sure the other sessions will take note of this. The only thing that is important, which came out in our morning, in the discussion on the digital in the morning, is that while what you have said is very true, and certainly something that policymakers have to aim for, it is also important to realize that though digital technology does not discriminate, it discriminates in access to begin with. So you have to be very, very clear that the basic enablers, i.e. basic education, basic facilities, basic infrastructure, are all there. Otherwise, the danger is, as we have seen in many cases, particularly during COVID, that the digital divide actually gets worse and the inequality gets exacerbated. So I certainly totally agree with you. The only caution I would say is that the burden on the policymakers is to make sure that the enabling environment is provided, to all. Otherwise, you'll just make it worse in a way. Dushyant?
So just a small, lighter note, Ruchika sent us some very complicated questions for this panel at 11 o'clock at night. 4 very difficult, industrial and crazy, complex projects. I spent 2 hours understanding the one which Sir just talked about. Now the rest 3, 1:30 at night, and I was like really struggling a bit. I just actually put into ChatGPT the questions which she gave us. The responses were, oh my God, so it was mind-boggling. What these guys are creating is, a little scary. I just did want to tell you. It was, sort of pretty neat is what I just wanted to mention.
Oh, wish I knew that. Then, I sort of, put it into the chat GTP and see what it says. But no, thanks very much. That's good. That's sort of, good. Okay. So what I'll do at this stage of our proceedings, since we're clicking time, bring in Ruchika. Ruchika, you take the floor, extract the wisdom from the floor. But before that, please share some wisdom of your own very, very varied experience. She is an amazing person. She's a transport specialist. She's also an entrepreneur in her own right, with a focus on trade and development. And she's working on design and developing simplified and responsive solutions for agriculture. So certainly a very wide range of interests, which I think you can all sort of benefit from. And at this place, at this forum, she's assisting the EU as a resource person from which we're all benefiting, certainly this panel. So, Ruchika, over to you.
Thank you, Rajat sir. Very kind words. Thank you, Dushyant. Point noted. Co-panelists, esteemed members in the room. Without risking repetition, I think I'm just going to connect. It's been a day of intense absorption for me. Mr. Sandeep said in the morning, seamless connectivity, much emphasized. Osama sir spoke about think digital as a road. I would say think digital as a trade route. Mr. Shahid ul Haq mentioned about geo-economic and geo-environment lens towards all initiatives. Dr. Syed, I'm going to steal much of your wisdom. Focus on being land-linked instead of being land-locked. And digital service experience is the key. On these lines, I think it is very important to build scale as a region, and scale in terms of volume and utilization to make any investment in infrastructure and in asset viable and sustainable. Otherwise, it will be small spurts happening in small, less frequencies. So in order to support that, digital connectivity is the spine. It makes us seamless, it makes us borderless, and at the same time, it is very, very important to be to have that continued service by private service operators who would need a certain amount of bandwidth to make it regular in terms of whether it's passenger service or it's cargo service. Further, to explore how the strengths of EU can get translated. I think a lot has been spoken by Moses sir, by Dushyant, by Selva Kumar sir, and also by Jay, very interestingly today on utilizing the fourth IR, and also some of the inherent strengths like barge operations and waterways and connectivity, which is very inherent to EU when it comes to the inland waterway system and coastal connectivity. How can some of those inherent strengths get translated into the projects that are ongoing? A lot has been spoken on making capacity building and implementation plan clear, which again becomes very essential for the success of the project. But what are the ways we can look from EU to paint a layer of green on these existing projects, especially with transport? And how do we look deeper into green fuels? We heard from the session with Shipra and Flo and all the climate and energy experts here. So how do alternative fuels work practically in designing all these projects? So while we are conceptualizing some of these projects, while we are at early stage of implementation of some of these projects, how do we transfer or translate the EU strengths on painting them green? And last but not the least, I think what is also important is the green hydrogen mission, which EU has a focus on, and also India is very closely working towards it. So with those thoughts in mind, I would request Rishikesh sir to make certain suggestions and comments and observations.
A microphone there, please.
In the meanwhile, if there's anyone in the audience who would like to send some questions to the panel here, please do pop them in the basket.
Thank you so much, sir. So it has been a very informative discussion. I would rather not delve into the aspects that you had chosen in mind, because largely for the fact that there were a lot more speakers before me, and there is going to be other experts who will be more informed and who would be giving a better picture as to where EU and India jut in. But I had a question in mind, if I would be allowed to ask that. And meanwhile, I am Rishikesh, Under Secretary in Ministry of External Affairs. And where Ministry of External Affairs comes in is when external partners come in. External partners, European partners or Japanese partners or any external partners come in. And since yesterday we have been hearing huge interest from the European partners, we have been hearing that European partners have been interested in doing a lot of projects in the northeastern states. And we have also been hearing some form of expectations from their side as to the infrastructure or capacity that these states or these regions should naturally have. Conversely, my question was, as states who are working with these institutions, do these states have any expectations from these financial institutions, from these external partners, if there are any? And are there any sensitivities that the states would like these institutions to be mindful of? That's something that would be very informative for MEA also, and for these who are listening from the European institutions as well.
Thank you. We'll just take some of the questions and then we'll request the panelists to answer them one after the other. Can I also request Mr. Sachin Gupte to speak about some of the top-ups on the infrastructure and asset development that's happening? What are the other industries that can come as a topping to it and build up further?
Thanks, Ruchika ji, for putting me in a spot, really. Well, I'll try and answer your question. Just to let everybody know, I represent PATH, an organization which is not-for-profit based out of Seattle, and we have a head office here in Delhi, and we have operations across 23 states in India, and our basic area of work is public health and healthcare services, working very, very closely with the government for health system strengthening. Our area of work remains vaccine, drugs, digital health, of course, health system strengthening, and medical devices and equipment as well. But since you spoke about how we can correlate with today's area of work, we are talking about connectivity. And when you say connectivity, it has two meanings. It's the physical connectivity and, of course, the digital highway. When you talk about physical connectivity, you have roadways and, of course, railways and other means of transportation. And everybody knows about digital. But I'm going to wear a hat of public health, and this has been a subject that hasn't been spoken yesterday or at length today as well. And I saw only 3 cards in the health basket. So I thought it is my duty to speak something about public health. So as I mentioned, that as an organization, I look after the operation for all my portfolios across the country for public health. But more importantly, I want to take everyone back to our experiences during the pandemic. And pandemic actually amplified a lot of gaps that were existing in public health. But also, the systems that were there were quite beautifully utilized and taken an advantage of to make sure that we actually move along. I'll give you a few examples. We talk about digital health. I think the whole world went digital during the pandemic. Everyone was online, and work from home was a norm at that time. And there was hardly any physical movement. And I'm going to say with confidence that during this time, there were multiple online sessions that were held for healthcare providers, for the paramedical staff. And it's very important because every single day there used to be new guidelines on COVID. And it was essential that everybody in the system had uniform understanding of the guidelines for the quality of care that was supposed to be given to this kind of people. So all those guidelines were taken care of, and most of the healthcare professionals were capacitated through these digital pathways that we already existed. Most of the guidelines were then transferred through the microblogging site to the end users so that they are actually reading up and keeping abreast with the knowledge. But also another aspect that we really need to look at, which is very important, and nobody in this world did that, but India did it. We developed a vaccine, and we probably had the largest ever vaccination program in the world for COVID. And we developed an application called CoWIN. This CoWIN was able to reach each and every person only because of the digital connectivity that we had, and that has not happened anywhere else.
So would it be right to conclude that the digital connectivity along with the physical infrastructure development is essential to promote health,
Absolutely.
tourism, as well as education and capacity building?
Yeah, it's not just health tourism, it's promotive, preventive, curative aspect of public health as well. Right. And just to add to that, if you have seen, we had our oxygen railways, the trains. We could use and take our PSA plants, that is pressure absorption plants for oxygen production to different ends of the country. We have today oxygen generating plants at PHC, CSC, district hospital, only because we could transport these huge equipments to the end points, and we could make this oxygen available. So supply chain, drugs, equipments, everything that is necessary for a strong public health system, you need that. And so I'm wondering if, apart from these investments, how we all can come together to invest in strengthening this system. And I might say just 30 seconds more. I know we are running out of time, but the bigger challenges are new emerging organisms that we are supposed to be taking care of. We look at antimicrobial resistance, we look at climate change, we look at One Health. These are huge challenges in public health in the next 5 years, and we really need to put all our brains together to see how we invest in these areas to the benefit of mankind. Well, if there is health, then all these investment work. Otherwise, it doesn't.
That's a very good thought to leave all of us with, especially when it comes to the public health sector, and connecting it to, as a voice of the region, I think it's very clear that digital and asset creation has to go hand in hand, especially in our region. With that, I would request if there are any questions in the basket. Dr. Syed, please.
All right, I was concentrating on the sort of waterways that you were talking about. One very serious question. Are you having anything to do, are you planning to do anything particularly in terms of sustainable dredging? Is that in place?
Yes. Now this National Waterway 2, that Brahmaputra, if you see that one, see every fortnightly, every 15 days, we are doing hydrographic survey. Okay, with that we will come to know what is the actual depth available, because the river Brahmaputra is a very dynamic river. Every time it will be changing its course, and siltation, deposition and erosion will be always taking place. That is why we do hydrographic survey every 15 days. That system is fully automated system, connected with GPS and the echo sounder and with software and all. It is not a manual, it is a hydrographic survey with a automatic system. That is already uploaded in our website also. Track also we are uploading. Actually, if you see the mandate of our waterway, it is only 32-meter bottom width of the channel with 2.5-meter depth only we need. Because river Brahmaputra, if you see that narrow place near pond and all, it is almost 2.5 to 3 kilometers. Whereas some places it is around more than 20 kilometers also. We are not going to dredge the entire width and all. We need only 32-meter bottom width. When we do hydrographic survey, then we found that when if any less depth is there, we are already having departmental dredges are there. In IWA itself, we are having 4 cutter section dredges and 2 hydraulic surface dredges are there. Now, that we are already deploying, and we are doing that dredging and all wherever required. If you see that last so many years, the trend and all, 2.5 meter is the depth required from Bangladesh border to Nimati. See, the entire waterway is 891 kilometer. We are divided into 3 stretches, 3 beat. Up to Nimati, 2.5 meter is our mandate to be developed for waterway. Then from Nimati to Dibrugarh, it is only 2 meter we have to develop. From Nimati to Sadia or the Orium Ghat, 1.5 meter is our requirement. If you see the last, every this hydrographic survey depth and all, water will not go below 2.2 like that. If you, that too in lean season only. Now flood season starts from April to September, it will be flood season. Always there will be more depth, more than 2.5 meter. Lean season, that is October to March, it is the lowest water. That time only water level will go. That too not less than 2.1. As soon as we identify the depth 2.1, immediately our dredger will be mobilized for dredging. That portion, clear that shoal. If you see that overall, this around 88 shoals are there. From this Bangladesh border to Sadia, this 891 kilometer, 88 shoals are there. We are tackling this depth by dredger, as well as another one conventional method is there, that is called bandaling. We put, that is a natural way of diverting the water. When water is diverted to one particular direction, there will be current will be increased and automatically erosion will take place. But that is a little time taking process, because natural process. That is why wherever we need immediately dredging, then our dredger will be deployed and we will be dredging. Now if you find that one Numaligarh expansion project is going on, that is 9 million metric ton their expansion project is going on. That for that we are deploying our dredger in Dhansiri river and doing dredging. Then in addition to that one, we have already given this work to our DC also, Dredging Corporation of India, to assist IWA for maintaining this waterways. Not only this Brahmaputra, Barak River is also there, National Waterway number 16, the Dhansiri River as well as Kopali River. We have requested assistance from DCI and they have floated also for dredging. That dredging will be done for that particular width only, not for entire. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think we have 2 more voice of the region in the room, which we'll request to give us their inputs in a very crisp manner because of paucity of time. And then we'll request the panelists to answer Mr. Rishikesh's question and also one question we have from the audience. So could I request Gaurav to give us in very short his comments, and then Mr. Datta from Mekong Institute to let us know a little bit about green corridors in very short. Thanks.
Thank you. So what we are seeing, how digital connectivity is actually impacting physical connectivity. There are examples coming now from Northeast region. One such is when Assam government start to publish their budget and public procurement data in open, what we have observed that this year they were able to come up with a green budget statement prioritizing transport as one of the key sector, and the electric vehicle policy where they are committing to bring in at least 2,200,000 vehicles, electric vehicles in the region. And so if we keep encouraging more and more government agencies to keep sharing data, what we are observing, there are ways they can harness in terms of improving public transport. And this is one example which is coming from the region. And with this policy, I think they are also encouraging citizens to have tax-free registration of the motor vehicle, and also reducing the overall motor vehicle tax subvention by 2%. So those kind of policies are, we are seeing northeastern states are able to implement if they keep sharing more data. So EU is a perfect example where they have moved leaps ahead in terms of data sharing when it comes to other countries. How can we learn from those data sharing practices and harnessing those for transport sector? That's an opportunity for all of us to explore.
Thank you, Gaurav. Mr. Datta?
Thank you, Ruchira, and excellent panel. It was very interesting discussion. Well, I am from Assam, but living and working in Southeast Asian countries for nearly 23 years now. And currently I'm based in Thailand. And my organization is Mekong Institute. It is an intergovernmental organization with a mandate of sub-regional cooperation in the Greater Mekong sub-region. So when we say Mekong region, it comprises of 5 countries: Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Vietnam, and Thailand. When we call it Greater Mekong sub-region, it includes 2 southern provinces of China, Yunnan and Guangxi. So I'm working, and my role basically is on trade and investment facilitation in these countries. And as I said, our mandate is on sub-regional cooperation and integration. So this is being carried out through different regional projects. And today I've been listening since yesterday. So my idea was thought mostly on not a very country-centric approach, but on a regional approach. So we are talking, I think, about the BBIN countries or BIMSTEC countries. So project intervention has to be regional in nature, because we share the same geographies, same climatic conditions, and our issues are more or less the same. And at Mekong Institute, as we work on certain regional issues related to agriculture or climate or even trade, or migration, etc., etc. So these have regional dimensions and are looked into from the regional perspective. And with that basis, we design and implement projects along with stakeholders from this country. As Ruchika mentioned about the Green Corridor, it is one of the projects that was supported by the European Union, and we had an opportunity to work with GIZ, co-design the project, and it was implemented in 5 countries. And there was a series of capacity building activities, including training, workshops, forums, dialogues, and building partnerships across institutions. And the focus is basically on greening the transport sector. As you know, similar to our northeastern region, Mekong region is also a land-linked region, particularly. It's not a maritime region. So 70% of the cargo movement is by road. And this cargo movement is emitting nearly 40% of CO2 emissions. So that was the crux of the issue. And with support from the European Union, we implemented this project with certain indicators to achieve, to reduce the CO2 emissions. So we targeted nearly 1,000 trucking companies. So each of these trucking companies are like, they have a cross-border transportation. They run around 50 to 100 trucks, a fleet for each of these companies. So we had a baseline. What are the rate of emissions from these trucks, and what are the impact in terms of their cost and operations?
Sorry, in view of time, may I request that we connect with
Sure.
Mr. Datta after the session, because we have a hard stop for...
I will leave you my business card. It's
Yes.
already there.
Yes.
So if anybody would like to contact, so please get in touch with us.
But
It
great
is- thank you.
inputs. Thank you for the input on having carbon neutral green corridors, and also, you brought up a very essential point of trucking and first mile, last mile connectivity, which is very key to our region. It's the most required aspect of our region. So thank you for bringing that up. Without losing much time, I think there are 2 questions which the panelists need to answer. So I'll look over to Mr. Jay, and then eventually Moses sir, if you could respond to from Mr. Rishikesh. Thank you.
Thank you. This is this question that has come my way, and it's talking about the situation of electric vehicles in Nepal. And the question goes like that, they're getting popular in Nepal also by being a hilly country, and it reduces dependence on crude oil imports. So how this issue of electric vehicles has been dealt in Nepal? Just last week, we had our national budget that was brought by the present finance minister. And it made some very interesting newspaper headlines. The budget allocation, and more than that, the kind of taxations that were put on the electric vehicles created a kind of buzz. Let me just tell you, Nepal perhaps runs the most expensive vehicles in the whole world. Our cars are taxed as high as about 280%. So let's say the car, maybe a Honda City that you buy at about 10 lakhs in India, will cost us about 45 lakhs in Nepal. So a friend of mine once came to Kathmandu, and he said, after having a look of my car, I was driving a small Santro. He said, oh, I was thinking you might be driving an expensive car. Then I said, what car do you drive in India? He said, oh, I drive a Honda City. I said, my car is more expensive than yours. Because I'm paying 280% of taxes. The twist that electric vehicles has brought in Nepal is this. Nepal has a huge trade deficit with India, about 90%. So for every 100 rupees that we buy from India, we export only for about 10 rupees. And a larger portion of that import is in the form of this crude oil. That is also heavily taxed. The vehicles, as I said earlier, are heavily taxed to a tune of about 280%. So a major share of government's revenue is coming by taxing petroleum products and the automobile vehicles. Now, if you go to EV and put some subsidy over there in terms of taxations and everything, government is losing a lot of money. So government is in fix, is in a catch-22 situation. If it stops, let's say, higher taxes on electric vehicles, it loses revenues. In return, it also consumes less petroleum product. Again, it loses further revenue. So government is trying to do some balancing act, because there is a lot of uproar that, hey, the government is taxing these electric vehicles very high. So the past government raised the taxes. This government again has brought down the taxes, but the cheaper electrical vehicles come more expensive than the expensive electric vehicles in Nepal. Again, that is a very paradoxical situation, but there is a reality. Let's also not forget, Nepal may have about 300,000 vehicles to max. It's a small country. More than that, since the vehicles are taxed very high, not too many people want to buy a car. And there is a higher concentration of those vehicles in Kathmandu Valley. That is about the size of Singapore Island. And Kathmandu at times gets very polluted. So we want to get rid of that pollution, and for that, there is a big ask that electrical vehicles should be reintroduced. So we are playing this hide and seek game with electrical vehicles in Nepal. I don't know what is the ideal situation, but hopefully there will be a situation someday. So there will be a solution someday. And in the same go, also what I would like to say is Nepal offers an excellent platform for building these, data centers or data warehouses. Because what you need for data warehouses are, first, a very high supply of quality energy. Nepal has this potential of producing that one, number one. It also works better when the temperatures are friendlier. In Kathmandu and around Kathmandu, temperature hardly goes down, let's say, 0 even in the peak winter, and it never climbs above 30 degrees Celsius. So it offers a very friendly climatic condition. And also Nepal has about 44% of its greenery maintained, so it has a lot of carbon credit. So putting all these conditions in place, Nepal offers this excellent opportunity for those international players who want to build these global data centers or data warehouses. And if you can support that in any way possible, I think that will be something very fruitful for Nepal.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. And Moses, sir.
Yeah, this was a question about what do states expect from EU? I mean, we heard yesterday about what EU expects from the states in terms of capacity, implementation, all that. But what is your expectation of them? What do you want them? Was that the tenor of your question? Yeah.
Of course, the standard expectations, I think I don't even need to go into that. But surely the states are likely to expect, some kind of value aid. Maybe like, for instance, I can see that in terms of capacity building, I think a lot can also happen that the states can expect. One is that, when we are introducing a new technology, everything is getting smart and should be. So smart power management, for instance, in Meghalaya could be a big thing. Because it was not smartly managed today, they have got their, they're settled with about 2,000 crores deficit in terms of power. They have debt, they have outstanding of that. So I think capacity building, not only the capacity, but of course along with that the investment, if it can come, I think that's what the states can do a lot. So for instance, when it comes to capacity, I would say that it's not only the officials. You train a person like me, I get transferred, or I really don't have time to get down to do and start working on that. So it has to be the first layer and the second layer, always. The guys who will really carry it out and execute also should be touched. And now more and more, our friend was talking about that during COVID, the health workers were trained. That's okay, because they are government employees and they'll continue to first-hand operate. But many of the initiatives are now outsourced to private parties, to vendors. So unless the capacity is also taken care of, just training the officials will just get a kind of just go haywire here and there. So it's a matter of, I think, if from end to end, if this can be taken care of, I think this look, I think smart power management, smart water management, a whole lot of things that can come. But yes, I think the states can definitely spec about something in this digital space. Yeah, this is one thing. And because I don't know whether the EU will fund this many of the infrastructure, but a lot is happening on the infrastructure thing. So they may like to come in, they may not like to come in. That's okay. ADB also comes. JICA is there. The other World Bank projects are there. The country itself is pushing in billions and billions of dollars, every year. So that, to a large extent, has been taken care of. But I think smartly and very, very tactfully, yes, they can come in some space.
Thank you, sir. With that, I think we'll bring a close to this session with a 1 minute remark from insight from the esteemed panelist and Rajat sir. One key takeaway and one initiative that you think this sector should focus on.
Thank you. So maybe 2 quick points and I'll try and do justice with time. One, very clearly, the world has changed in the last 36 months. When you talk to the guys with the money at 3 years ago, they would not bother so much about sustainability, but today they do. There's a thing hanging by their thread. So if you guys can come out with very good, beautiful projects, they are really waiting for it. That's one. Second point, I just did want to pick up on the healthcare point and give an example of, blended finance. Again, everybody already knows about Samrid here. which essentially USAID did it and then all the banks and everybody's come in. But 16 million was leveraged to create a fund of 160 million, 60 innovative applications, 25,000 doctors, nurses trained, 25 people impacted. Blended is a beautiful solution which can also apply across, a number of areas. I'll just stop here.
Here, one thing, important thing I like to tell that one. See, as I told that one, National Waterway 1 Ganga and Brahmaputra is National Waterway number 2. See, now what happened, we have taken this World Bank aid project, that is Jalmarg Vikas project, that is around 5,300 crore project. We are developing River Ganga. In that similar way, this River Brahmaputra was declared in 1988. That time we have made DPR also. Now the DPR is almost very old, more than 30, 40 years. Now we are revising the DPR through rights. Once the DPR is revised, then latest position for developing this Brahmaputra river with capital investment, because Ganga was needing around 5,300 crore. Then Brahmaputra also will come up like that. Whatever project now we are doing, that is for time being, whatever we feel that priority we are doing. In the similar case, when this DPR is finished, already inception report and traffic assessment report submitted, and final report they will be submitting within 3 to 6 months, right? That will be uploaded in website. Anybody can see that one, and like that more investment opportunities, because World Bank has aided Ganga. Like that, this investment also can be made for River Brahmaputra. Thank you.
Okay. Once a lot of this connectivity are in place, I think smart logistics management will be very, very important, because all of them are there, but how to smartly, very, very smartly managed. And notice logistics is a big, big issue. It is easier for me to transport my goods to Delhi than to Imphal. Yeah. So there are some big issues there. So I think the smart logistics, and I think a lot, again, the digital technology can come again here. So if it needs to be somewhere, integrated into that. Yeah. Thank you.
Since I'm here in Shillong and I come from Kathmandu, the aerial distance of Nepal to Shillong, I think, is minimal. It's not too much. But I think this region, northeast part of India and Nepal, need to build a better connectivity, at least in terms of flights. From Kathmandu, I went to Delhi. From Delhi, I came to Guwahati. From Guwahati, I took a drive of 3 hours, then I came to Shillong. And again tonight, I'm driving at 1 o'clock in the midnight, and then I'll be going to Guwahati airport. My flight is at 6 o'clock in the morning. Again, 2.5 hours flight to Delhi, and from there, 1.5 hour flight to Kathmandu, having a layover in Delhi for about 5 hours. I think this situation can be ameliorated. This can be made better. And that's the reason why when I walk in the street and I find people that have you been to Nepal or Kathmandu, most of them say no. So I think this region itself needs to have a better connectivity. And since connectivity is the buzzword, let's just start from this region and beyond the sub-region that includes Nepal as well. So that's the message I want to give to the organizers and everybody who is responsible for that. Thank you.
Sir, your viewpoints.
Well, we've all spoken. First of all, take this opportunity of thanking the organizers, the MEA, the EU, Asian Confluence. This has been an extremely well-organized conference, but more than that, really it's a very well-curated one. Each silo, each pillar was not a silo, so it's all fitted in very well. And as we saw, Mr. Chalai was sort of, very easily and seamlessly moving between transport and digital, because you can't sort of break the border. So thank you very much to the organizers. Very, very well done. Today's session, again, because of time, we couldn't get into one thing which was left unsaid, but I think is important I put it on the table. We seem to have talked more about hardware, building the roads, building the railways, building, the dredging. Very, very important. But equally important, and sometimes even more difficult, is really what I would call the software. So it's one thing to build the road, which is relatively easy technically, but another thing to talk about the point that Mr. Datta was referring to, the protocol, the driving licenses, the behind the border barriers, you know, customs clearances, etc. So this whole software development, in my experience, and I'm sure in everybody else's, sometimes is much more complex, takes much more time, but very much needed. So that's point number one. Point number two, we've talked again about what appeared to be physical infrastructure, digital connectivity, etc. But I think we have to remember, and I'm sure we do, that at the end of it, we're really talking about people. So we're talking about human sustainability. Otherwise, having a road or railways or whatever will just remain physical. So human sustainability is the key. So at that, my great pleasure to have been able to be on this panel with all of you. And Ruchika, thank you very much for co-moderating. Great pleasure, and thank you. And I look forward to the ChatGPT, and take it away from him, so that next time he doesn't sort of, you know, say, I don't have to come because ChatGPT is there. But I know you won't, because no ChatGPT can replace your wisdom and experience. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. With the thought that, like Moses sir said, much has happened and a lot is to be done. So over to John. Thank you.